Okay, here we go. You never know when the live stream actually kicks in. I don't know why I sing. I just get excited. But um, but
Okay.
we are here. We are here on Chi Time. We're on Chi Time live with Niraj Naik. Have I pronounced your surname correctly?
That's right. Niraj Naik.
Yeah, from
You
Soma
got it.
Breath. Yes, indeed. I have been wanting to speak with you for a long, long time because breath work is so fundamental to everything. I mean, without breathing, we're sort of done for, aren't we, really? And what you're what you're doing with breath work is this fusion of these ancient techniques with these modern, if dare I may say it, sexy ways of encouraging people to come in and actually get involved. So, I mean, for people that don't know you, how did you first get introduced to breath work and realize that this was something of use to you?
It's a great question. So actually, for me, it began through my own healing journey. So I was actually a pharmacist, but then I got very sick with a chronic autoimmune illness. I was like almost housebound for a year, and it was going through that time where I really, well, firstly, I saw the healthcare system for what it is, and they tried their hardest, but they don't ever get to the cause of problems. And I was having a lot of medication. It's just like a band-aid,
Mm.
for the wound. Doesn't really do anything other than just mask the symptoms. And the worst case scenario is having my colon removed. And they say God stands with gift of desperation, and that in this extremely desperate moment, luckily someone came to my rescue called Swami Yamakananda. She runs an amazing yoga school in the UK, and she basically said, "Look, you've got a gift. Actually, if you can get better from this without taking anything, you could be a great role model for other people." So that gave me a lot of hope. It gave me a mission because she said that with your tenacity, your wanting to help people, and your pharmacy background, you could be quite a good role model for other people if you can overcome this. And one thing I realized is how much of a disease is our identity. We hold on to things based on our ego, the time and place of the ego at that time. And for me, if you look back at that time, I was in a really disillusionment. I was very depressed. I hated my career. I didn't believe we were helping anyone, really. I felt we were making people worse. I had a lot of anger, resentment with the state of society. I was actually trying to put together a very important project. Could have helped millions of people in the UK, but that was blocked for reasons I won't go too much into. And it just made me lose faith in humanity and the spirit. I lost my connection with the spirit. So that's the perfect ingredients for a storm, for getting sick. If you hold on to, if that becomes your character, anger, frustration, um, you know, fear, hatred, if all that burns inside you and eventually turns into a fire, and and then you get, a disease. So one of the first things I learned through my Swami was actually going into my roots of Ayurveda and learning about the spiritual causes of disease and why, according to Ayurveda, like every disease has a spiritual component to it. It's like a spiritual imbalance. And spirit actually means to breathe in Latin. Spiritu means breath. So, they understood thousands of years ago what we now know, that the whole process of respiration, you breathe in, you create energy because oxygen burns glucose to make ATP energy. And that currency of energy is life itself. That's how we function. Everything in life revolves around this one formula of oxygen burning glucose. And is that understanding where you realize that with the breath, actually, we can control the energetic process within the body and the various functions. And when the ancients say we can tap into these energy meridians or chakra points, to influence the autonomic nervous system, then they were completely right, because we've been told by science that we have no control over the autonomic nervous system. And, I proved them wrong. And various people over the years have done that. This guy called Swami Rama in the 70s, he went over to California, and he baffled all the scientists with his ability to slow his heart rate right down and change his core body temperature. Wim Hof did it in recent years. He's a good friend of mine. I did it by healing from a chronic illness, and there's many other people who have done it. We're not the only ones. But the science has been telling us that we have no control over this. And when I realized that that wasn't true, well, what I mean, the control over the autonomic nervous system, I made a pact. I'm going to do whatever I can to help people by putting the science and giving people accessible techniques. And that's since turned into the Soma Breath community. We have like almost 1,000 instructors around the world now carrying out these techniques. Amazing transformations that are going on, especially during this time right now.
I know it is so,
And
so
yeah,
key, isn't it? Niraj Naik is here with us on Chi Time, talking how important being aware of how to manage your breath is, because, like you say, it's an automatic system that goes on whether we think about it or not, which is just as well. But it's also, in fact, I think it's the only system in the body that's both can run automatically, but also we can have control over. And so when we come
yes,
into that power of being able to use the breath to our wishes, then I think this is when we start to take back our sovereign power. We recognize that this is a powerful, potent way of healing ourselves, but also coming into that power that is our birthright.
indeed.
Yeah, and what are there's so much we could talk about here. I don't know. Anybody got any questions on the YouTube? Do drop them down in there if you want. Otherwise, we will just rock on and continue with, because as I was saying just before we went live, I was saying that as a qigong teacher and practitioner, breathwork is central. We do movements with the breath. We use sound with the breath as well. And I love this it's a point of connection with all the other trainings around the world, or the meditation and the yoga. The breath is the thing that we all have in common, but we have different approaches to it. So with qigong, it's very much watching the breath and letting it do its own thing, but also being aware of these transition points at the top of the breath and at the bottom of the breath. So lovely Sharon King introduced me to the depth and wealth of Soma as much as she could. And I started to practice some of that, or I noticed in my own practice when I was getting to the end of the out breath, this is the place that we'd go to for maximum relaxation, entering the 0 point field, total balance, just blissing out. And then you come along and take it to a whole nother dimension. Could you explain to us a little bit about this power of the extended exhale?
Yeah. So actually, if you look at pranayama as this is the core foundation of what we teach. So pranayama literally means energy control. So prana basically means energy, yama means control. And, and what the point is that with the breath, we can control the various energetic processes in the body. And basically, the simple thing is that by modulating the rhythms of how you breathe, right, and breathing in certain rhythms, we create what I call vibrational breathing, right, where you're breathing to create different vibes or vibrational energies. So you can have a very high vibrational frequency, which means very fast rhythms. You can slow it right down, calms the whole nervous system down. And you can also change the breath rate. So you can breathe out double the length of time you breathe in. And that basically stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system and puts you into this rest and digest mode. Or you can even double your inhale time, and that you're breathing in for longer than you breathe out. That stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. But I'll show you like an example. So basically, this little device is an amazing little tool. And what this does, I'm actually just going to share your video into our group as well, as it's live. There we go. I was going to share that.
So Niraj has got a nifty gadget attached to his fingers for those of you that are listening on UK Health Radio. So what is this nifty gadget going to be showing us?
Okay, so what this is a pulse oximeter, okay? I'm just going to switch it on. And in a moment, you'll see a reading, okay, coming up. Let me see if this way's better. Okay, so if you look where it says SpO2, okay, it will come up with a reading in a minute. That's my blood oxygen levels. And then the number next to that is my heart rate. Okay, so we've been told that we can't influence our heart rate consciously. Okay, this is something that can only be done either using drugs or machines, surgery, and things like that. I'm going to show you that we have direct influence over the autonomic nervous system. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my heart rate by 20 beats per minute, and then I'm going to lower it by 20 beats per minute. Okay, live on this. Okay, so bear with me a sec. Let's go.
So for those of you that are listening, the pulse rate is now going up, 79, 80, and it's continuing to rise, 88, and he's up to 90. I don't actually know what he's doing because he's just got this, and I gather you're doing some breathing or something which you can't tell us about because he's actually doing the thing. Yeah, up to 90, 95, and now it's going down, and now he's going down. So he's doing the breathing thing. And he's going to tell us about it. And now it's on 54, 53. So he's now going right down just by adjusting his breath. The heart rate is going down. And this is something that I noticed when I'm doing my yin qigong, that it seems like I don't need to breathe a lot, but the breath is much deeper. And particularly when I use sound as well, which is something we're going to be talking to Niraj about soon. So
right.
now, yeah, now he's on 53.
That was a demo,
and
so I just raised it by 40.
You did.
Sorry, about 40 breaths per minute and brought it all the way down, right?
You did.
Sorry, 40 beats per minute. Yeah.
So you
down back to about 50.
So yeah. How did you do that?
Okay. So basically, this is just proof that you can tap into the nervous system and control your heart rate. And with that, many different functions of your body can be affected, especially when you bring the intention into it. So basically when you breathe in, you stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. When you breathe out, you stimulate the parasympathetic. So simple logic is, if you breathe, let's say you breathe in a perfect rhythm. So in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds. What happens is you harmonize the nervous system. Especially if you slow that right down. If you breathe in for, say, 8 seconds, out for 8 seconds. That perfect rhythm, precisely to a beat, it completely balances the nervous system. And that's foundation of Soma, is this vibrational breathing, rhythmic breathing, where you're breathing in a perfect rhythm. Now, if you perfectly double the exhale time, right? So say you have a beat going, and you breathe in for 2 seconds or like 4, and you breathe out for double the length. So it would be, if you breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4. If you breathe in for 4, breathe out for 8. You stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is called this is an extended exhalation. It's our rest technique. So what that does is, it, over like a period of like a minute or 2, it switches off the sympathetic nervous system, puts you into a relaxation mode.
So can we just say that this is really an important place to get to for healing, because this balance point at the center of everything is what we are completely wired for. And the breath signifies this. But like you say, you need to have a balance between the breath. And then when you go into parasympathetic rest and digest, you're going into the body's natural healing ability, because we all have this ability within us to create the pharmacy within to help us heal. And when we extend this, so now you take it further into the extended exhale, and then that we come into like intermittent hypoxic state, which is again essential to Soma, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the slightly more advanced technique. So breathing rhythms, you can modulate which side of the nervous system you activate, right?
Yeah.
And like this harmonic breathing where you breathe in a perfect rhythm is amazing for just balancing your moods, your energy levels, and just being in a flow, like feeling more like in a flow. Now, the most revered technique in pranayama of all is called intermittent hypoxia. Is basically kumbhaka. It triggers intermittent hypoxia, and I call this breath-based intermittent hypoxic training. And you can look up what that means, intermittent hypoxia. You can check it out on Google. But basically, what it means is a brief period of lower than normal oxygen levels, okay, in your blood. Now, as I showed you, we already have abundance of oxygen. At any given time, my oxygen levels are around 98% saturated. Okay, so it's not that we have a lack of oxygen. What the problem is that we get too much oxygen bound to red blood cells and not coming off the red blood cells and going to where it needs to go. The reason for that is due to over breathing. When you over breathe, you breathe out one of the most, if not most important ingredient of all, carbon dioxide. We've been told it's a toxic waste gas. It's bullshit. Okay, it's actually a very, very important part of respiration. Without it, you can't get the oxygen off red blood cells to where it needs to go, and that causes oxidative stress. Okay, and oxidative stress is what was coined by a doctor called Helmut Sees, who says that although it's very difficult to live without oxygen, it's also difficult to live with oxygen because oxygen is corrosive. It burns things, it combusts. Okay, and like actually in our mitochondria where this respiration process happens, we actually it's like a little fire burning. It's like a furnace, and also too much fire, you get stress. Too much stress, you get free radicals. It damages cells, it makes cells cause cancer and things like that. But too little oxygen, and the cells don't burn energy at all. So you need the right balance. But in order to get oxygen from the red blood cells into the cells where it needs to go, you need the right balance also of carbon dioxide. So when you slow breathing right down, it gives you a chance for carbon dioxide levels to rebalance. Also, when you like do like extended exhales, going om, for example, even just chanting om, it slows the breathing down and it brings the carbon dioxide levels up. Now, what we have a problem of, and what could be the cause of a lot of people's diseases and issues, is that they're not getting enough of the oxygen to where it needs to go. And some of the causes of overbreathing, which gets rid of all the carbon dioxide, right, is basically simply when we're stressed out, we breathe at a faster rate than we normally need to. Even though we don't have a physical threat in our environment, emotional stress triggers the same response in the body, hormonal response. We produce adrenaline, cortisol, blood vessels get tense, contract, you get more tense, blood flow diminishes to where it needs to go. And also you breathe at a faster rate. And that means you're breathing out more carbon dioxide. You're not getting optimum absorption of oxygen. So the yogis devise these techniques, okay, like, and this kumbhaka technique, what it does is you use rhythmic breathing. Okay, so you do a couple of minutes of this rhythmic breathing, and that allows you to then hold your breath for much longer periods than you normally can. Okay, because you're breathing out carbon dioxide at a faster rate, just for a short period of time. You're not doing it for a long time. Then what can happen is you can hold your breath for long periods of time. Like we're talking 1 to 2 minutes. You allow carbon dioxide levels to really raise, and oxygen then comes off red blood cells, and you get this flushing effect of oxygen coming in. You get like this hyperoxygenation that happens from oxygen coming off the red blood cells because you're raising carbon dioxide levels quite a lot. Now, what this also does is it trains you to be able to tolerate higher amounts of carbon dioxide in your system. The problem we also have is that we don't have tolerance to carbon dioxide, and that makes us breathe faster than we need to. Like, it's carbon dioxide levels that triggers us to breathe again. It's not the oxygen, it's not the lack of oxygen, okay? It's actually it's the carbon dioxide. So when you have too much carbon dioxide, and you don't have tolerance to it, it makes you breathe faster than you need to. You kind of panic breathe because you think you're running out of oxygen. So you got to trick your brain, and this technique, and that's why we call it is our signature technique, Soma Awakening, using breath retention. It means you can hold your breath. You learn to hold your breath for longer and longer periods of time. Okay. Now another thing happens in this state. When you lower the oxygen for a period of time, you actually train your mitochondria to become more efficient at using that oxygen. Okay. You also get more red blood cells forming, and you get better vascularization. You get more blood vessels forming around your heart and in your brain, around your body, which means you need less oxygen to create the same amount of energy. So over time, your breathing rate slows down, it calms down. So the ancients, they figured all this stuff out, like yoga and pranayama, by studying animals in nature. And they realized that animals that live a long period of time, like elephants and turtles, they actually have very slow breathing rates. Okay. But animals that don't live a long time, they have very, very fast breathing rates, 30 to 40 breaths a minute. Elephants have like 2 to 4 breaths a minute. Now, there's some anomalies, some weird phenomenon that exists in nature. So the naked mole rats, they are actually rats who live underground, and they live in predominantly hypoxic conditions. They also can hold their breath for like 18 minutes at a time. Now, what sets them apart is that they live for 30 years and instead of 2 years. Plus, they don't get any diseases. They don't get cancer. They're like super robust creatures. So they even did experiments where they tried to give them cancer and they were immune to it. So the scientists were like, the only thing different between these creatures is this fact that they don't need to live on a lot of oxygen. Extremely efficient using oxygen. And that means they have less oxidative stress as a result. It's why we need antioxidant diet. You'll find somebody who doesn't breathe properly, isn't efficient using oxygen. They're always hungry. They need a lot of antioxidants in their diet. They need stuff, they need more sugar to produce more energy. They overbreathe too much. Okay. So another anomaly, the strange one, is the whales. They live like 200-300 years, some of them, right? It's super ancient creatures. And they can hold their breath for 2 hours at a time underwater. So it shows that there's something to do with longevity and your ability to hold your breath, retain your breath, and also how then efficient you are using oxygen. So our Soma, and if you look at some other things out, proof of this. The Nepalese Gurkha army are the most robust, strongest army in the world. The British used the Gurkhas to win their wars, so did the Americans. They live in the Himalayas. They climb up to high altitudes. They're really, really climatized to very low oxygen environments. Like at the top of these mountains, oxygen levels are very low, and they're extremely strong and resilient to disease. And in the Mexican Olympics in 1968, they were winning records left, right, and center. The scientists wanted to know what's going on. Why was this happening? Reason was because it was done at high altitude. They figured out it's the high altitude training that did it. And why do yogis go and live up in the Himalayas, in these mountains, right? And here's another thing. So when you can hold your breath for longer and longer periods of time, you wake up and this is the research as what I've been discovering, the power of your own stem cells. Stem cells are cells that can turn into any other cell in the body, and they exist in a very low oxygen environment, a hypoxic environment. Okay, so when you're in the womb, you're like a bundle of stem cells, and your oxygen environment is very low in oxygen. But when you're born, the stem cells disappear and hide in these areas of low oxygen called niches, like your bone marrow and things like that. And the only time they ever come out is under low oxygen environments, trauma, and extreme temperatures. So this is one of the reasons why I think saunas help a lot, and ice baths. You go into extreme temperatures, you're stimulating stem cells. And same thing with kumbhaka, this breath retention. The longer you hold your breath, the more you activate the power of these stem cells. And they have an innate intelligence, ability to go to where healing needs to happen in your body. So we've created certain techniques that you can use to direct healing to parts of the body and to influence the power of your own stem cells. So, there's ongoing research to this, but there is promising research now that shows that this is true.
Wow, this is
So,
absolutely
that's what
fascinating,
Soma
Niraj.
Breath's about.
Yeah, this is like
Yeah, it's
the
amazing.
science behind it all. Have you got an example of that we could play listeners? We won't be able to play it on the YouTube watching live, but we're going to come back and continue the conversation. But for listeners on UK Health Radio, have you got a track that they could join in with and experience some of this?
Well, I don't have any very short ones, but
Okay.
I could play one of my music tracks. So
Okay.
another thing that we're really into is the ecstatic dance, dancing and feeling really good. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Me.
so
Me
I actually
too.
made a bit, yeah. I did like, so another thing you can do is shaking, where you shake
Yes.
your body like this.
Yes,
All right.
this is
And when
central
you like,
sushi gung stuff as well. Oh, lovely. Another
yeah.
crossover.
Yeah, so when you like shake to dance music or fast music, it actually releases a lot of stress. So all of our breathing meditation sessions, we incorporate shaking and releasing all the tension around the face and things like that into the practice.
And
So because we haven't
you
got time
we haven't got a lot of
to
time
do a
on
whole
UK Health
session.
Radio, exactly. And so people can go to somabreath.com to find out you've got all sorts of free access stuff as well as some modules that are happening. But I've only just found this out, people, that Niraj creates all the music himself. I was like, what? So we're gonna chat a little bit more about the power of sound and breath after this track that you've chosen. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this as well. So what is it called? Or have you not chosen
It's
it
called
yet?
I Love My Life.
I love my life.
Yeah,
Perfect. Isn't that
yeah,
great?
yeah.
So bringing that affirmation in, that
Yeah,
appreciation.
so, well, if you've heard of like Mind Valley, have you heard of Mind Valley? Yeah, this was their anthem, and I've rocked their festivals with this track. So
Fabulous.
it's a pumping little track. All right,
Oh,
shall I get it together?
yeah, no, we don't have to do it live now. We can put it
Okay.
there. But unless you can, but if there's a little taste of it for the YouTubers, how
Yeah, I
easy is it
can
for
share
you?
my screen. If
All right, so
you
we'll ju-
let me
we'll, we'll just
share, I'll
say
do it.
for the recording for the audio, because I'm repurposing this, just saying thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom so far. If you want to watch the rest of this interview, hop over to my YouTube channel, Chi Time TV, and just enjoy this lush track by Niraj Naik from Soma Breath. Okay, now you
Cool. If
can
you want
go.
to just let
Yeah,
me share my screen, I think you just need to make me a co-host.
yeah. Okay, I have to.
Just click on participants and you should be able to do it.
There we go. Make co-host.
Nice.
Good.
There we go. Cool.
A bit of live ecstatic dance. I love my
Oh yeah,
life.
this is one of our fun little tracks. You hear it?
Yeah, I'm going to put both of me headphones into this one.
I love my life. 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 That's right. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. That's right. I love my life. 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 That's right. I love my life. What? I love my life. That's right. What? I love my life. I love my life. That's right.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I love it. I love
That's right.
Oh, should we
Fun little pie track.
yeah, how much longer have we got?
That's it.
That's it, that's it. Fantastic.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, great. That's what I needed today. A bit of morning dance. Thank you so much.
Yes.
What a super track. Did you enjoy that out there, everyone? Yay! Wow. So now, after dancing like that, often I kind of just, when you come into stillness, it's like coming into that presence of being, and you can really feel your breath doing its thing. And then the joy spreads through your system. And
Yeah. And that's actually just a fun, kind of powerful, positive affirmation.
isn't it? Isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
I'm often, it's this whole miracle of existence. I mean, it's a absolute, the fact that we even exist is just incredible. And it's
Exactly.
and this whole system that we have, this unit that we have, is phenomenal. I'm always blown away. I mean, my first training when I left school was as a nurse. So I've always had human biology as a very interesting, an interesting way of looking at how it all works and marveling at it. And you've just shared earlier on some sort of key biochemistry that I wasn't aware of them. I love still learning about all of this. It's fascinating, and more
Yes.
information is coming up all the time that is real. So here on Chi Time with Niraj Naik from Soma Breath, we're on the second bit of the conversation here live on YouTube. And, we're talking elemental truths. And when we're coming into talking about the breath and the air and the earth and our bodies, these are things that are true. We've got them, we have them, and yet, this connection with the spirit and the body, this in spiritus, this our true self that uses this body. I don't quite know where I'm going with this. It's just I'm just coming through that. We take it very seriously. This body is the important thing, but it's not. It's the vehicle for the spirit, and the better our bodies can be, the more we can bring our bliss and our greatness and our joy through into the world to make it a better place.
Yeah, indeed. You could argue that the spirit is the breath itself, because without that, there is no energy produced, and energy is exactly what every single thing is composed of. E equals
Energy,
N.
yeah.
According to quantum science, every energy is matter. They coexist together. This is the aduality, the Advaita philosophy of the Vedic kind of science. And actually the quantum scientists like the famous ones, they actually quoted the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and said like these were perfect kind of like science themselves of what they're discovering in quantum science. It was kind of like they already knew how atoms and elements work together. So by controlling the inner world, we can have more control over the outer world. That's basically when you make an inner world alignment with the outer world, then you basically live in harmony. And the idea is by working in the inside world, the internal energy, we can become more harmonious people and beings, and we can live more in harmony with nature and other people, and have more compassion and more love, because ultimately the source of all thought comes from the breath itself. The word inspire actually is to breathe in, inspiration. You get inspired, you produce thoughts when
Exactly.
you breathe in.
And
So
it's not
actually
just
another
the oxygen.
yeah.
No. It's the energy, it's the chi, it's the spirit.
It's the spirit itself, yeah.
That
Yeah,
inspires
oxygen's
you.
just a label, it's a label, but there's
And
much more to it.
it's only
On a
one
yeah,
component, isn't it? Only one
yeah,
component of it. So, and I love what you were saying earlier about how important carbon dioxide is, because it's always thought to be, oh, we're trying to get rid of carbon dioxide, but actually no, because of the biochemistry, they've got this subtle dance that is going on all the time. Each one needs the other, a bit like the yin yang, which we see playing out all the way through our systems to allow the balance in, to let the balance dance and to find it, and to also enhance the detoxification process, because we're all carrying a lot of toxins these days, just being on the planet. And so the breath helps us to, the sweating, the dancing, and the unhooking unhealthy ways of thinking, which I often think when you bring in positive affirmations or ways that you want to align with, helps the old ones that are not in alignment. I mean, it's a big topic, this anyway, but to bring in affirmations with the breath work and with movement is super powerful to help you talk to yourself, to help get your waters to reverberate with the truth of you, that which you wish to align with your highest truth.
Yeah, indeed. That's it. So, you know, like, also our emotions are so linked to our well-being and our health and everything. And, you know, like, another thing with the breath is this ability to understand ourselves better, so we don't have to hold on to these emotions for so long. You know, there's this whole, people talk about you must process everything and you should sit with your feelings and all this. That's right, but to a point. I see a lot of people, they are constantly processing and sitting with their negative feelings and then using that almost like as a crutch to not do anything. And yes, we should obviously understand our feelings and emotions, but we don't need to hold on to them forever. We need to release them. We need to let them go. We need to say thank you for teaching me.
Exactly right. The emotions come through to be noticed and then to be released. We're not, and that same is true of tension. We're not supposed to hold on to it. Stuff comes in and needs to go through us. And so movement and aware breath work really helps us to let that natural processing just occur and get to what's really behind all of that. We don't want to be stuck in the dilemmas and the traumas. That's not getting us, that's not joy and liberation and inspiration.
And I find a lot of these, I know some people who go to these meditation retreats, and they hang out in these groups for like months at a time, and they literally, all they do is sit there and process for like hours and hours a day. And like a couple of months later, I'll be like, to a friend who's doing it, I'll be like, so what's changed? He goes, nothing, I'm just sitting, I'm still processing. I'm like, okay. Oh, that's good for some people, but I want to get on with my life, man. I want to do stuff.
Well, that's this thing, this activation that comes. And you mentioned mitochondria and ATP as well. So back in I had 5 years of not having a home. It was a choice. It was an experiment. But towards the end of the fourth Christmas, I was really exhausted, and I was doing my chi work, but it wasn't enough. And I went to see a holistic practitioner, and he said to me that my Krebs cycle wasn't functioning very well at all, and that was the problem. And I needed some trace elements to get this ATP actually igniting the way that it should, so that it was supported and able to. And it was like, you've got to have the balance between the biochemistry of the body and then the spiritual inspiration as well. That we are potentially a harmonious unit. Mind, body, spirit need to be as one these days, not the body or the mind or the spirit. And so, that's what I'm fascinated with, what you know about the biochemistry, about getting this physiological aspect of ourselves to support our inspiration and our spiritual nature.
Yes.
So,
I believe, you can look at the world completely with a materialistic view and come to the same mechanisms as just going through the spiritual, looking at everything spiritually. I think, like a lot of things are semantics. So like a lot of these things that we're talking about are spiritual practices. There are ways of doing this in Christianity. There are ways of doing it in Judaism. There's Christian Science techniques, different techniques. They're all trying to come to the same conclusion. What I'm trying to do is bridge the gap between the woo and put in a bit of ooh with the science, and like trying to bring the two worlds together, because like not everyone can relate to some of the out there spiritual stuff that's out there. But actually, if you look at the methods they're using, they're quite often, you could explain them as self-hypnosis or guided hypnotherapy, or quite often there's a breath element to it. and rhythmic breathing is involved with it. So quite often what these spiritual practices are is just they're using, because the brain can't determine the difference between the real and the imagined world. So, you know, you can tell somebody very imaginative story, descriptive with lots of imagery in the words and language, and you can invoke a response in them that gets them extremely aroused. You know, like an erotic bedtime story will get somebody extremely turned on, you know, if you use the right words. Well, the same thing is you can actually, using visualizations, guided imagery, and you know, like stories as well, and analogies, you know, of like, say, the spirit, or you know, is running through you, the divine energy currents running through you. And you can use these visualization tools and you combine that with the breathing practice, the mechanism, and you arrive at the same result, you know. So I've what I've been doing is I've been deconstructing a lot of these ancient practices from tantric yoga, from, you know, from the more new age world as well, and coming to the same conclusions. And what I've done is I've stripped away some of the dogma and kept it to the mechanism, so that that way you can add whatever layer you want to add on top. As long as you do the mechanism, it will work. It will create the result. And that's what we have. Like, we have breath therapists. Literally, they're like therapists themselves, but they can have a whole different like, like list of qualifications. Some of them are like our mutual friend Sharon does, like matrix reimprinting. We have EFT people, we have yogis, we have a bunch of different people, psychotherapists. What they do is they combine with our mechanism, our framework, their additional techniques, what they do, into it, and it creates this really powerful practice which is scalable to everyone, because the person who's into Reiki may not be into, you know, there may not be the same people who are into you know, like hypnotherapy or something. So you get, with Soma Breath, I'm trying to make it fully based on the mechanism and the scientific application, but with the room to add whatever layers you want to bring
This
that
is
relates
complete,
to your
yeah,
client.
this is like unity
That's what it's
consciousness
about.
stuff as well. You're finding this common denominator that other people then can use. And I'm getting very excited about this, people. I'm sure you know where I'm wanting to go with this, but I want to talk to you more about it. But
Yeah.
one of the other common denominators is that of sound. So we're talking about the old traditions. There's always generally singing involved, or chanting, or mantra, and that's one of the things that you bring into your technique too. And that's something that I find with my own practice, that when I bring sound in, not only does it calm the breath, but there's this reverberation of a true vibration that my system is nourished by. And so I'd like you to speak to us a bit about this power of sound, obviously as an expression of the breath as well.
Yeah, certainly. So okay, so let's look at like some of the oldest shamanic or like ritual practices, like African tribalism, for example. They would use, okay, very fast rhythms or hypnotic drum patterns, right, with djembes and percussion, and they would use rhythmic breathing over the top and dance, and they'll be using certain dance. And what this is doing is getting them into a higher vibration, like an altered state of consciousness, a trance. And then the shaman would be saying things to them, like affirmations or instructions, commands, you know, and that would invoke a magical response. And so by deconstructing that, what you've got is, what you're doing is you're using sound, rhythm, okay, breath, all together to create an altered state of consciousness and to change the vibrational state, which relates to emotion of that person. And when you get certain brain chemistry in people, which is high in oxytocin and dopamine and these like tryptamine like hormones, endorphins, these certain neurotransmitters that are known to accelerate the change of the brain, okay, then when you add intention and affirmation and visualization, like in the form of guided imagery on top, So if you're a shaman doing that, delivering that, or if you're Soma Breath instructor, you're doing that, right? You're trained to do that. It's no difference. What's happening is you're changing the brain of that person from the neuro chemistry of it, the neurology. And as I said, our disease is the result of ego. It's the result of a particular part of the brain which is called the default mode network. This is the part of the brain that deals with sense of self, your meaning that you give to things, to past events, to how you judge things in reality. And basically, I believe that in order to cure a disease, you can't actually cure the disease. I'll tell you why. Cure pretty much means bringing somebody back to that original state. You don't get cured here. You get totally transformed. You change personality. You let go of the guilt, the shame, the envy, the sorrow that you had from the past, the blame, and actually you become somebody who's more compassionate. You have more love, self-love, care. You know, you are more forgiving. You actually change personality. You let go of certain habits and traits like that have been holding you back, like, you know, bad lifestyle choices. You start to treat people better. So you actually become a new person. So somebody who might have been depressed before is no longer depressed because you're changing the part of the brain that has formed that identity in the first place. We've actually had science experiments done on this, where just our 22-minute daily dose showed the same results as somebody who had just done a therapeutic dose of psilocybin mushrooms, which has been shown to like cure severe depression by like 80%, which is incredible in 80% of cases. So in just a 22-minute dose, we can create those results. And what the scientists were saying that with our longer sessions, which haven't been tested yet, we need to do further sessions, further experiments, we should be able to create even more profound, dramatic results, way beyond what's possible with like psychedelics and things. So I really believe we've created a very powerful therapeutic tool. You know, in the right hands, this can really help change people like at a core level and improve and make them into who they really want to be, who they deserve to be. Because who you are, unfortunately, is who are you really? If you ask somebody who are you, where do your thoughts come from? Where's your identity come from? Where does your meaning and taste for things come from? It comes from your upbringing, your conditioning, mostly. I would say very high percentage is that. So however you were treated as a kid, your school you went to, the first 7 years of your life is where it really happens. You know, the friends that you had, your people you chose to keep as your friends, the school you went to, whether it's a public school or, you know, a normal school, whether you know, you were born a Hindu or a Christian or whatever. It creates your reality tunnel, and that reality tunnel creates a predictive path for people. As in, you know, in England we have a very set reality tunnel. You go to school, you get a job, you go and do a degree you don't really want to do, you get depressed, you end up in debt, you go and do a job that you don't want to do, and you get a bunch, you know, some kids who repeat that process, right? And people like think that they have had the free choice in this matter, and they blame themselves for all of this. But actually, no, the truth really is a bit different, and that is that you've been created, you've been formed from a young age. And in order to change, all it needs is your conscious will to take a decision to work on that part of the brain that forms the ego and to step outside of that. And that's why like people have profound changes, transformations after they do psychedelics or do ayahuasca or something like that. You know, but what I believe we created something is a less extreme, much more pleasant and easier experience to experience, to do the same result. So yeah, that's what we're about with Soma Breath.
Yeah, Soma Breath. So how can people find out more about you, and where can they go?
So my advice would be go to check out our Soma Breath website, sign up for the masterclass, and we have like some offerings. So the 21-day awakening journey, which is super profound. It leads to big transformations. You do it with an instructor as part of a group. You make like friends for life doing this stuff as well. It's really cool. It's an online virtual retreat basically. And that's something you can test out first. But we also have instructor training. So we're trying to now give the power back to you. And what you're doing as a Soma Breath master instructor or therapist is you're giving other people the power back. That's all you're doing. You're the facilitator in other people's transformations. You're helping people be their own guru. So we have ways to do that. So we have a first instructor training, the basic level, which is a way for you to deepen your knowledge in breathwork science. It will give you a lot of useful tools you can use yourself. But then you can go deeper. You can choose to go deeper. And we actually have a 6-month career path program to get you to become a fully fledged Soma Breath master instructor and therapist, breath therapist. So you're trained in breath therapy, and you can really help people with this 21-day awakening protocol. You'll be able to guide people through these 21-day transformations. Yeah,
Beautiful.
That's what we're about.
Wonderful. I mean, this is a gift to the world at the moment when there's so much worry and fear and anxiety, that to come into being empowered yourself in these simple but profound tools that everyone can get a handle of. If you're feeling drawn, head over to the website and see what is there for you. You've also got some YouTubes that are free to access for people for the fuller experience. And
Oh yeah,
that's
true. YouTube is good as well. Go to our YouTube channel. You can get a lot of the content for free. You can test out some of our Soma Breath tracks on there. And also Facebook. Go to Soma Breath and join the group. There's lots of cool stuff there. And you can see all the reviews from people in there as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. And just to sort of finish off with, what does Soma actually mean, Niraj?
So Soma actually comes from many meanings. In Greek, it means body. In the ancient Vedic scriptures, in the Rig Veda, which has 50,000 references to it, Soma was this substance that the rishis these ancient people were addicted to. And in order to break their addiction, they had to discover how to create the Soma within. And the Soma within is the inner pharmacy. So it meant that they broke their addiction to external stuff. Now we're surrounded by somas, and the government and everyone are pushing us onto stuff that we're going to jab into our arms eventually. And our point is actually healing comes from within. And you're both. I mean, I'm not going to knock everything that the pharmaceutical industry does. There's a time and place in emerging situations for certain drugs, but they shouldn't be our crutch for the long term, and they shouldn't be things used to treat chronic illnesses. Chronic illnesses are diseases of the ego mind, the personality, and the operating system of your mind. So we need to correct that, and we need to do it ourselves.
Exactly.
I want to give the power people back.
Yourself, everybody.
This is what you need to do. You don't want to be clinging to a therapist for the rest of your life. You want to have the power back yourself.
You really do. I'm so with you. It's been a complete pleasure to meet you, Niraj, and for you to share with us everything that you have. Thank you for being part of Chi Time. It's a real honor.
It's been an absolute honor as well. I love it. Thank you so much.
I'm just wondering, are you lining up another track for us to go out with here, or busy trying to fend off whatever's happening in the outside
I was just getting a couple of questions on the people liking the video. I just shared it in our group, in the Soma Breath group.
Thank you. Nice one. Technology, absolutely marvelous. So thank you all for watching Chi Time TV and Niraj TV and Soma Breath TV, or wherever you're watching this on whatever screen. You're really welcome in. What an amazing family that you're growing here, and clan and tribe. And this is a real calling for community. And this is one of the ways that you can do it. So bravo. Thank you for doing everything that you're doing.
You want me to play another song? Have you got time?
Do
Or?
we want him to play another? We're on YouTube. It doesn't matter. We have no time limit now. It does feel like it would be nice
Oh,
to,
really?
if you've got the time, I've got the time.
Yeah, I've got a really nice, slightly different vibe, much more on a chill vibe. It'll
Okay,
be a
that'd be
nice
nice.
outro. It's a very beautiful
Okay.
song. Uh, the musicians on the album, on the island. So, let's do it. little clip.
So gorgeous. Went on the right journey there. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
So we're just going
So good
to
one.
let you bask and be with that lovely people out there wherever you're tuning into this, and just be so blessed. I feel really blessed from having that experience of sharing with you. So thank you again.
Thank you. Really, real honor. Thank you so much. Cool. Beautiful.